In 2010, an exhibition known as 1001 Inventions was released on the world. Sir Ben Kingsley was happy to throw good taste aside and star in the accompanying film around this exhibition. It sought to rewrite history by claiming almost everything of significance in science was discovered or invented by Muslims. This propaganda appeared to be an attempt to take credit for the scientific advancements that non-Muslims have made to build a modern world, and to deflect from the fact that the stagnating impact of Islam has meant there has been nothing of scientific significance to come out of that area of the world in 700 years. Those with knowledge of the truth about this misnamed Islamic Golden Age met the exhibition and a short film with derision and debunk videos. However, recently it appears that there may have been some truth to the 1001 inventions after all. It looks like there has been at least one invention out there that can be credited directly to the Islamic religion and the desire of Muslims to spread it, and it's exemplified in this man. For those unaware, this is Mohammed Hijab, one of the figureheads of the Dawah circus in the UK. For some years he's been preaching Islam to whoever would listen, and in recent months he's been trying to widen his message by getting debates with well-known non-Muslims. It was while watching this video where he was responding to author Douglas Murray that I noticed he and his fellow Dawah do-badders invented a new behaviour which I have named rage begging. According to the Drastic Measures Encyclopedia, rage begging is defined as the attempt to gain the attention or time of someone by the use of angry outbursts, insults, or threats mixed with desperate pleas for interaction. Mohammed Hijab uses this behaviour in his video, and I'm going to review a part of it to examine his technique. But before we get started, take a moment to remember that you saw the creation of the term rage begging right here. Yes, on Drastic Measures, comedy memes for the future are born. In the months and years to come, you will see this term applied all over the media. Whenever someone decides to abandon their dignity to solicit the attention of someone while trying to hide it under an emotional tirade against them, you will see them labelled a rage beggar. And you will know you were part of the lucky few who saw where it all began in this video.
Now, many of you will be aware. Many of you will be aware of the back and forth that I've had with one Douglas Murray. Now, for you who don't know, this man is a British journalist, but he has been given a platform by the likes of the BBC, The Spectator.
Already I can hear the envy in your voice, Mojab.
He has been part of the neoconservative movement in Britain and in the West, and has been a voice against, I would say, Islam and Muslims for some time, a critic of Islam and Muslims for some time. In fact, let me read something to you to give you a flavor of what this man is all about. He says, conditions for Muslims in Europe must be made harder across the board.
I'm not here to defend Douglas Murray, but he did give this often quoted speech a little over 6 months after Islamist terrorists murdered 52 people in London and injured more than 750 during the July 7 bombings of 2005. It was still impacting him emotionally. He has since expressed regret for the language he used.
He says, Europe must look like a less attractive proposition from long before we were first attacked.
I notice how you missed a more pertinent part of what he said there, Mojab, that Muslims are owed no religious holidays, special rights, or privileges. Is that because you do advocate for those things?
It should have been made plain that people who come into Europe are here under our rules and not theirs. He says, where a mosque has become a centre of hate, it should be closed and pulled down.
I think you can make an argument that if a mosque is inciting Muslims to look down on non-Muslims as lesser human beings who can be harmed or oppressed in the name of Islam, we certainly shouldn't be accepting it.
If that means that some Muslims don't have a mosque to go to, then they'll have to realise that they aren't owed one. Now, the first part of that sentence, that conditions for Muslims in Europe must be made harder across the board, it's so anti-Western ideology. So anti-enlightenment ideology. If we're talking about equality, if we're talking about minority rights, all of these things, it goes against those things.
And yet the Islamist ideology of imposing Sharia and apartheid, which you support, does not. So criticism from you on this statement is going to ring pretty fucking hollow.
Now, I'm not asking Douglas Murray to become a Muslim.
Well, that's kind of you.
I mean, we invite all of the world to Islam, to the worship of one God, of course, and that it does include Douglas Murray. But what I would, for now at least, like to see is Douglas Murray being self-consistent with his own principles.
I notice you said, for now at least, this is what you want from him. Kind of implies what you want from him would change if Islam ever got established in the UK, and considering the man's sexual orientation, he'd be wary of being near the rooftops of any tall buildings.
Because this is a man who I'm going to have to say as it is nothing but a hypocrite.
So the first hint of rage begging begins as you call him a hypocrite.
He is a hypocrite. He makes himself out to be some kind of a bastion for freedom of speech and expression, but he's a co-founder of an organization called the Henry Jackson Organization.
It's the Henry Jackson Society, and he's not the co-founder. He founded the Centre for Social Cohesion, which was absorbed into the Henry Jackson Society, which already existed.
He's the co-founder of an organization that produces reports on a yearly basis, and these reports, in fact, are an attempt to account organizations which have Muslim speakers in universities. And he states, or not him, but the report states, for example, extremist hate preachers have near unfettered access to students. And by that, of course, he means, with his understanding of extremism, anything that goes against Western ideological or Enlightenment values. So you see here, this is really, it's enraging. It's enraging how these individuals that speak about freedom of speech are attempting to do actions, words, or have words and actions, produce reports which have the net effect and entailment of curtailing freedom of speech for a minority group, which is the Muslim.
That claim would need some evidence from you. Spoilers, everyone, he doesn't give any.
He, in fact, or not him, but the report states that failure by university to apply, that there's been a failure by university to apply prevent duties. Now, for those who don't know and maybe live abroad, prevent is the government's counter-terrorism strategy. So here we have a situation where the Henry Jackson Society, which is co-founded by Douglas Murray, is producing these reports. And these reports aim to vilify, label, or otherwise cancel. Yes, cancel Muslim speakers, traditionalist Orthodox speakers, from speaking in universities because they're afraid that they have, quote, unfettered access to students.
The report that Mojab is quoting from is this one. It lists groups of extremists and hate preachers who have been advocating for things like killing gay people, killing apostates, advocating for joining ISIS and other terrorist groups. These are the kinds of people it is worried about having unfettered access to students, Mohammed. When it talks about duties under prevent, it's talking about the duty in relation to terrorism, not cancelling ordinary Muslims' rights to speak. Unless you think you should have the right to incite murder or encourage people to carry out terrorism.
What kind of censoring is this? You coward! You are a coward!
Shouting coward at him. Here's the rage.
And this is, do you know why it's clear to me that you are a coward and that you are afraid of public engagement and debate? Because when it came to me challenging you on Twitter for a discussion...
And here's the begging.
When I came to challenge you on Twitter for a discussion or debate, let's be straightforward with you because we don't see eye to eye, what did you say? You made the excuses, you call me anti-Semitic, you call me all these words because I'm anti-Zionist, because I am pro-Palestinian, unashamedly so. You will never find a statement of mine in the whole public record which amounts to anti-Semitism.
I might take you up on that challenge in a later video, but let's have another look at the tweet of Murray's you put up. He calls you an anti-Semite, street thug, part-time stripper and full-time liar for your profit. Aside from that being pretty damn funny, it's interesting that the only part of it you contest is the anti-Semitism. So you've no disagreement with being a street thug, a part-time stripper and a full-time liar. That's good to know.
But you coward, even if I was a fully fledged anti-Semite and hated Jews, which we believe in Islam is not possible to do, or you shouldn't do, because the Prophet himself married a Jew, Safiya bint Huyay. You didn't know that, did you? And he condemned anti-Semitism, which I have videos on my channel doing the same thing. But if this is your excuse, why are you discussing with Anjem Chowdhury?
So you call Murray a coward again, but then moaned that he talked to Anjem Chowdhury but not you. Rage bag.
Let's take a picture. Let's take a look at a picture of you discussing with Anjem Chowdhury. Anjem Chowdhury is widely recognized in the Muslim community as someone who belongs to the radical fringes, someone who has not condemned ISIS, not condemned Al-Qaeda, not condemned these groups, and in many ways is sympathetic to those groups. And you have had a discussion with him, but with me, what now? You're getting cold feet?
Are you asking for a debate or his hand in marriage?
You're getting a bit scared. What is your excuse?
Rage beg, rage beg.
That I'm not qualified? I think you'll find that I'm much more qualified on these topics than you are, especially Islam. What are your qualifications in Islam? What are your qualifications in Islam? What is your training in Islam? What background? You've written 2 books, to my knowledge, about Islam.
That's 2 more than you.
But what is your qualification to speak about such a topic like theology? Huh? Tell me now. You come to me humbly as a student. That's the only relationship you can have with me when it comes to the religion of Islam. You come to me humbly, cross-legged, as a student in front of me.
That sounded kind of creepy. Also, I thought you were begging him for a debate. Now you seem to think he has asked you for one and must sit cross-legged in front of you.
And I will tell you about Islam, the rulings, the book that I've memorized, the language that I know, the years that I've spent in the Islamic seminary, and the degrees that I've acquired.
Oh yeah, your degrees. You seem to have a new one of those every 6 months. They sound about as authentic as Zakir Naik's medical degree.
You're not in my league on these issues. Don't even pretend to be. And how dare you try and attack the Quran and say the book, the measly, pathetic little book that you have produced. Apparently he says it's more bought than the Quran. It's yani, people are buying it more than the Quran. Are you that, mentally slow? Do you think people buy the Quran on Amazon? This is the tweet he put up. You can check it on the Twitter. This guy, he thinks that his book is being read by Muslims or by other people as much and or maybe the same amount as the Quran. Are you a fool? Are you literally a fool? This book is being one of the most memorized. No, it is the most memorized book in the world. Children memorize it. And you're talking about your measly little book that you put on Amazon. Anyway.
Yeah, that bitterness over Murray's book sales was a bit of a sidetrack from the main rage beg. Focus, Mojab.
Let's move on to something else. Let's move on to what you actually say about Islam. Let me expose your ignorance further. Because it's not just Islam and theology that you have a inhibition, you have a weakness in, but you have an inhibition and you have a weakness when it relates to the humanities. In your book, The Strange Death of Europe, you refer to as conjuring a careful new version of history, which flies in the face of all historical scholarship, practically all historical scholarship. We're not saying that the whole time in Spain was good, you had the Al-Muwahhidun and so on, but to try and imply that there was intolerance throughout the whole time period when Islam was in Spain is foolishness and ahistorical understanding on anyone's understanding.
Well, tolerance under an occupying Islamic army is going to be relative, I guess.
And you make blunders, historical blunders. You state Europe was never a continent of Islam. What are you talking about? We have Europe you have Spain as the example. You have Sicily as another example. And you have other places which the Ottoman Empire had control over as other examples as well.
So you mean Europe was Islamic on account of all those places that Muslims invaded? By that logic, Iraq is Christian now. Anyways, Mojab plays a little bit of a Douglas Murray clip where he mostly says accurate stuff and he tries to argue against him. I've spun on as I want to get to the next rage begging bit.
You're talking about my body. He was trying to body shame me. The guy was trying to talk about my body. You're trying to talk about me. And even your followers were saying, actually, I think, Anyways, I'm not going to say anything, but you can go and see on Twitter what his followers were saying. What your boyfriend maybe have been saying.
So you go from crying about body shaming to quasi-flirting with Murray's boyfriend. That's weird, mate. We'll spin past his shitty attempts at explaining Quranic verses.
You're ignorant. How dare you even think that you can debate me, you can speak to me?
It was you asking for the debate, Mo. As Murray made clear in his tweet, he didn't know who the fuck you were when you started shit-talking him on Twitter. He had to go look you up.
You're not qualified. You're not even that popular, to be honest. Let's be honest. Who are you, anyway? Who are you to try and step up like this?
You stepped up to him, Mo, and made a fool of yourself in the process.
Who are you? With all due respect, and you're coming talking about Islam, you're talking about Muslims need to be treated in this way and that way and the other way. That they are ticking time bombs. That's another quote of his, by the way. They're a demographic ticking time bomb. Well, I'll tell you what. You're an intellectual ticking time bomb, because now you're starting to implode upon yourself.
The only bombs I know that implode are atomic bombs, and they don't tick, Mo Hijab. We'll spin on once more as he screams about some verses.
Filled with fallacy and totally. You are an imbecile. You are an imbecile. What kind of debility is this? What kind of intellectual debility?
What the fuck is debility? Weren't you supposed to be a school teacher? Your subject certainly wasn't the English language, was it?
Imbecility, pusillanimity is this. I tell you, I think you know and I know, this wouldn't end well if we were standing next to each other and we were having an intellectual discussion. And that's why you scurried along, didn't you? That's the real reason why you scurried along. You put your tail between your legs and you had to run away. You tried to engage me on Twitter, but you wouldn't engage me face to face.
So insults followed by more crying about not getting a face-to-face debate where you could do all your theatrics. We're coming into the home stretch of the rage begging. Let's skip more piss-poor apologetics for Mohammed's bad behaviour.
You do not know what you're talking about, yeah? And so this is the thing. You can be a critic of Islam in your little echo chamber, but you are a coward and you are not courageous as Jordan Peterson said you were, because if you were, and I give credit to Jordan Peterson for having a conversation with me.
We'll deal with that train wreck in another video.
Which was courteous and cordial. If you were, you would at least talk to me. And with whatever energy you come to me with, I'll come to you with that energy. But the energy that you've been coming to the whole Muslim community with, talking to us about ticking time bombs, talking to us about unequal rights for our community, talking to us about religion being a religion of opportunism. Yeah? The religion itself is an opportunistic religion. And other such things. For a man that's unqualified, untrained, or otherwise unaware, you really can't make a case for yourself, can you?
He doesn't need to. You're begging him.
So next time you utter the word Islam, or next time you utter the word Muslim from your mouth, or next time you or your institute that you founded, co-founded, produce reports, remember that it's hypocrisy that runs through your veins. Not just blood, but hypocrisy that runs through every artery and every vein in your body.
If irony was measured in photons, we'd all be blinded by that little rant.
You talk about freedom of speech and cancel culture, but you do to the traditionalist Muslims and Orthodox Muslims what you claim the left has done to you. That's the reality of the situation. That is the reality of the situation. And you do anything but embody either spirit or word of what the liberal theorist said, which is that I disapprove of what you say, but I defend to the death your right to say it.
Yeah, he can stick to that principle and still tell you to piss off, Mo. There's no contradiction there. Nobody owes you a debate.
You don't embody that in either spirit or sentiment because you are a coward and you are a hypocrite. And that is the reality of the situation. And for those who want to see bridges being built and, civility and lack of toxicity and so on, I say, as the Arabs say, ahlan wa sahlan. Yeah, we want that as well. The Muslim community does actually want coexistence and harmony. We do. But you can't reasonably ask me or my community to be an accomplice to our own murder.
What the fuck? So not talking to you is now murdering the Islamic community. That's unhinged even by your standards.
Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Yeah, well, as you can see, the usual hysteria, screaming and shouting, insults, but with a nice undercurrent of desperately trying to get a debate out of someone. This has been Mohammed Hijab bringing you a textbook performance of rage begging.